Okay. So our latest exhibit in the virtual gallery is a solo show by Christine Montague. Christine is an award-winning realism and portrait artist who creates emotion-filled polar bear paintings, symbol to wonder and warning. Her polar bear portraits celebrate the polar bear's beauty, spirit, and high intelligence, as well as expose its vulnerability in our warming world. Her portraiture commissions include Boris, the oldest polar bear in captivity. And is Boris still with us?
Boris just died this past year, unfortunately.
How old was he?
He was 34.
So,
and
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so I guess polar bears maybe live in their 20s usually, but Boris managed to live quite a long time. He was very well treated. He was rescued from a traveling circus, and there's quite sort of an adventure about how they rescued him, and they had to wait till he got into, I think it was Puerto Rico, which is like a part of the States. And then that gave the state, because he was traveling through Europe, I guess, and that gave the states the right to now enter and rescue him from this traveling circus.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So he was at the Point Defiance Zoo, which is in Washington State, and the vet who cared for him, she knew it was getting near the end of his time. He was very arthritic, and they didn't display him to the public anymore. You know, they were giving him a great life. And anyway, so she commissioned me to paint his portrait.
How did she find you? Just through your website, or?
Just through my website.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Christine has also commissioned and painted Oscar Peterson, Dean of Dentistry at McGill, and many a beloved family member, pet, or respected colleague. A longtime resident of Mississauga, Christine's art is in collections worldwide. Was this a pet of yours, Christine?
This is actually my grand fur baby.
Oh.
I own cats, and my son who lived out west, he has this husky that was from northern Alberta, and we've discovered we're crazy about her. and I started this new little series of round paintings, and these canvases are available in multiple sizes, and I just happened to have, I was trying out all the different sizes, and we just miss her so much with COVID-19, you know, with the pandemic.
Right.
I just decided I'd try out, how did a dog portrait, because I do get dog portraits, how did a dog portrait look on these round canvases? Because they're like little windows. It's like you're looking at this little window. So we miss her so much. So I just actually gave it a try to see what a dog portrait looked like on this. But it was also for us that it's almost life size. So we sort of talked to her.
She's very pretty.
She's a very pretty dog.
Yeah, very pretty. And just for those who might watch the video, this is, let me show you again. At the top of every image, there's the drawdown, and it will give you the name of the painting, again, the media, the size, and if there's a story, there'll be a little story, and the price is there. And if you want to inquire from the artist, you just hit the inquire button, and this template will come up. And you, excuse me, you just have to put in your email, your message to the artist, or your question, and everything about what you're inquiring is below. There's the image and so on. So the artist knows what you're talking about. So that's very easy to follow. And then the invite button is just all the social media platforms. So if you love the painting, or for some other reason you know someone who'd like to see it and you're connected there, you can simply share it on any of those social media platforms. And there's also mail, so you can just email to someone and talk to them about the work, which is really handy. And then if you want to see more of the artist's work, in this case, Christine's work, you just hit media and it'll take you directly to their website. So you might want to do that. What's this?
This is, once again, this is actually my daughter.
Uh-huh.
And it's the same trying out portraits on a round canvas. I mean, round canvases have always been around, but they're not traditional. It's traditional to paint a square portrait. And I happen to be a big fan of the company that makes these products, and it's Canadian and in Ontario. So I bought a whole bunch of these round canvases that do come with frames. They always are framed. And so I was just trying out, I mean, I'm normally doing polar bears, but I was trying out how does a portrait look on these round canvases. And so this one's whereas the dog one was quite large, you know, it was 18-inch diameter, which is quite a big face. This one's a 12-inch diameter. So it's still like a traditional size portrait face, which is about 6 or 7 inches. But it just gives a different, there's a little bit of almost a voyeuristic feeling to it. You're sort of looking through a window right at this. So I gave it a try, you know, using someone I knew as a subject. And I found it sort of worked. There's a certain charm to it that it's on this round canvas.
Yeah, I see what you mean about the voyeurism aspect to it. Yes.
It is like you're looking through a scope, or you're looking through a little round window, or there's an added dimension to it.
Yeah, definitely. And then we get to the polar bear.
Yeah, so this is my usual subject matter. It's always about polar bears. Sometimes it's a little more haunting because the polar bears I paint are safe, just sort of basically like the polar bear situation is now. It's that all the polar bears aren't disappearing on the earth right now, you know, but they are of concern. So it's a bit of a Schrodinger's cat situation, like you decide whether they're alive or dead, but my polar bear paintings, even though there's always the underlying current, we should be, I know we've all got so much to worry about with the pandemic, but we need to be concerned about climate change, and that even though we're down in here and almost no one will see a polar bear unless they see one at a zoo, we're still, everything we do, from the plastics we consume to how high we keep our thermostats, is affecting the polar bear and the Arctic, the tundra, thawing. We're just all connected. You know, it's and especially in Canada, we have most of the polar bear population. It's between 60 and 80%, something like that, of the polar bear population. So they really are our animal, if we want to claim an animal. And so their story is our story. What we do here in the South affects up to the North, affects them. They're the apex predator. If we affect the top of the chain up there, we're going to affect everything else. It's all connected. But anyways, so these little ones, quite often my paintings are, when they're bigger, they're in dark water. The idea that there isn't, how far is that ice away from the picture frame that the polar bear needs. These little ones were started in the pandemic. I actually started to create them thinking that I was going to be part of the Arts at the Credit show that's in the
right.
So I was making all these little portraits, but it got shut down, and it sort of evolved into, they're more about solitude and just that the wonder of the universe is still out there. We can stay calm, carry on, just like the polar bears.
Yeah.
They became a little more hang in there. We're in, there's hope. Things looking to the right in art usually represent looking to the future. Just we're in the moment, but well, I didn't think it was going to be quite this long, but
that's right.
We're still in the moment. We're still good.
It does go on, doesn't it? And what size are these, Christine?
The canvas itself has a 6-inch diameter.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the frames probably make them about 8 inches.
Right.
8.5 inches wide, something like that.
Yeah. Oh, is that a pup?
Pardon me?
Is this a young bear?
He's not a super, he is a cub, but he's not a super young one. He's like over a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he's not like really young, but he's not fully grown.
Right.
He's based on the bears I paint are either the photographs, based on the photographs I actually took when I was lucky enough to get up to Churchill, or zoo bears that I see. I go to the zoo and spend 3 hours photographing the bears. So this is, I can't remember now whether this is Humphrey or Hudson, but it's one of the bears that are now at the zoo. They were born at the zoo. They went out to Winnipeg. I think I even saw Hudson in Winnipeg when I was in Winnipeg. Now they're back. Now they're here. Like they sort of shipped polar bears around. Like Inukshuk, the big, beautiful bear that was at the Toronto Zoo for years. He's now up at the Canada Polar Bear Habitat in Cochrane. He's sort of got the right to be retired up there, and he lives this one up there.
Uh-huh. What's happening here?
And so I quite often do this where the bear could be in the water, but really he's up in the seas and the up in the sky, with either northern lights or stars. It's sort of the idea of the spirit of the polar bear. So this is, I think, called a float with a sea with the stars and the northern lights. So he could just be underwater and something's happening in the water, but he's also up in the sky. So it's the idea of he's up above us, maybe looking down at us, hopefully not judging us, but maybe wondering what we're doing.
Yeah.
And just the idea that we don't want that all we have of the polar bear is that he's a spirit. That's all that's left, that he's, we talk about, in the future, talk about, remember the polar bear? Wasn't that something?
Yeah.
So just the idea of, he's sort of suspended up there, floating up there between this world and that world. But you can take it literally, he's just a bear in the water. It's whatever you want.
Now he looks pretty regal, this guy.
This is Wise Eyes for Troubled Times. So once again, he was, done at the beginning of the pandemic when I started to do this little series. And polar bears are so intelligent. And I don't think I have this wrong. I think it's along the idea, think of them as like a great ape, like how we think he's not sort of like, a black bear. He's a whole other intelligence level. But so he's just caught in a moment. What is he thinking out there on this solitary journey? And
right, you
can times for us, and what would he think? Well, nothing, probably.
It does look like he's, thinking and about something.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does look like he's very intelligent,
Yeah, and maybe a little superior, maybe to what we are, maybe.
Yeah, well, sometimes. Now are they endangered at this point?
I think it's considered of concern.
Oh,
So they're
okay.
not quite like the endangered.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not an expert and I'm not a scientist, but I do have listened to talks, and so one talk I listened to said, no, if you remember, it's not a case of us losing every polar bear on the planet. It's just losing a huge amount of the population. And of course, they have to live where there's sea ice, that they only really eat ring seals. They're adapted, that's the only thing that really sustains them. And,
Wow.
and they cannot eat enough berries, and so it won't give the fat that they need to even, I think, carry a fetus. Like they've got to have a certain level and of nutrition that's this high fat from the seal.
Right.
And so the idea is, well, they would just be so far north, like you really wouldn't see them. You'd have so I guess there's all different opinions, but they're definitely of concern. They're smaller cubs, less cubs. I think like when twins and triplets used to be the common. Now I know there was big excitement. They saw one bear this year with three cubs, and they hadn't seen one for years.
Okay.
So like where I guess that might be a little more normal in healthier times.
Yes. Yeah, it sounds like it. Look at those teeth. Wow.
Yeah, polar bears, if you see them at the zoo or in life, I mean, you really do want to touch them. There is this urge like to like go boop, because they're beautiful, or hug them or something. They really are so beautiful. But I just always try to show the respect that, no, I'm quite passionate about polar bears, and I really would love to own one and hug one and the baby polar bear and all that stuff, but I really do quite get they are wild animals that are extremely dangerous. So I do, if I can, show the teeth. Like it's just a reminder that they're great, but there's a respect that should be shown.
Yeah, they're not pets or anything.
Yeah, they're not pets.
Yeah. So do they live in large groups, herds, or what is their grouping?
They're solitary. On the whole, their journey is solitary. Okay. But where you see the big groups is when they're waiting for the sea ice to form. And they do seem to sort of gather in the same spot, and like younger bears will sort of spar, but friendly sparring. It's sort of training. I'm not sure. I think like mother bears will still sort of try to keep their cubs away from. A male polar bear is a danger to a mother with the cubs. So that's another reason you want that ice to form. She wants to get out there and get her cubs fed, find food for her cubs, teach them how to look after themselves. But you want some distance between you and the male bear, who might kill your cubs because he wants his genes, genetic material dominant, not some other, type of thing.
God. Yeah.
I know there's more to it than that. That's like a layman's thing, but no, on the whole, they're out there on their own, doing their own thing. They're solitary animals, except the mom does have her cubs with her for maybe, I think, up to 2.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, she has them till they're sort of ready to go, and then she'll sort of chase them away. And then the siblings might, if there were siblings, they might even hang out for a while, till they sort of get their footing and then go their own way.
Yeah, that's all very interesting. When was it you were up in the north in Churchill, and how long were you there?
Oh, I was just there a couple of weeks. I was just there on a learning vacation, like lots of people do, but I did stay at the Churchill Northern Studies Center, which is an incredible research center out on the tundra. It's not right in Churchill itself, it's separate. And it's where their mandate is studying and researching the sustainability of the North. So polar bears are a big part of it, but they also do other things, whether, flora and, other aspects of it too.
Right.
But it's just if anybody could ever go, it's just a fantastic place to stay.
Yeah, I can imagine. What size are these paintings? These
are 20. This one's 24 inch by 24 inch.
Okay.
And it's a sunset series. It's like the northern night, like, it sort of gets dark in the winter, right? The way of this. So now we're getting into more spring and the ice at early summer, and the sun, the last of the sea ice is just sort of suggested in the background, and now we're having sunsets and the bears returning to the land, where the bear won't eat basically for months.
Okay.
So that's what the excitement's about with the vanishing sea ice. The longer, the earlier the ice disappears and the later it starts up, means the longer the bear hasn't eaten.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I like this one, so dramatic. Yes. 30 by 30, I see. Yeah.
So this is called Forever Polar Bear. And once again, a polar bear is looking to the right, and he's in dark water. We don't know how far off this next ice is, a picture frame type thing. And the Dark Water series is about that idea of the cycle that gets started up, that gets scientists concerned, is that the ice on our northern caps is like the big reflector of the sun's rays that helps keep our planet cool. So when you've got the dark water, more open water now, and not as much sea ice forming, now there's more dark surface. If you think of inside your dark car and everything, to now absorb the heat. And so now that's making it more, it sets up that cycle, not as much light is being reflected up back, it starts this cycle, and then you have more dark water, and then more heat is absorbed and less light is reflected back. And then, it just builds up this huge cycle. And it's pretty complex, but it's not just as simple as just, okay, we're getting less ice. It all plays into salt in the water. It plays into currents of the ocean. Like it affects the whole planet. It's all connected. It's just not a matter of, so what? There's less ice up north. It's not such a simple concept. It's a huge, complex connection that affects the world all over. And this is also
very interesting because, usually all you hear about is the temperature change and nothing behind that about the reflection and the lightness and the darkness and the salt and all these things you've mentioned.
Oh, it's like, it's just so complex. It's almost overwhelming. To understand it, but that's where, as soon as you get the people that misunderstand and they think it's about warmth, it's that isn't what it's about at all. Although, yes, it does get very unseasonably hot, and it's just about changing like the stability and the whole. There's just movement happening on this planet, whether it's in the air or in the water, and it's affecting it all.
Yes. Yes.
And
it's just like it's a chain reaction everywhere.
It's a chain reaction. Nothing happens that doesn't hurt something else. Like something else. It's like polar bears. They're now finding like microplastics in them. Like why are there microplastics in a polar bear? Right? It's like, I mean, how insane is that? So it just shows how it's just so connected. We have to, unfortunately, all be responsible. And I know it's so hard. People have so many other basic survival worries right now.
Yeah.
It's really hard to be talking
day-to-day stuff.
Just to get through each day is pretty hard for people, and I quite sympathize.
Yeah, I know right now, for sure. For sure. This looks like a younger bear to me.
Yeah, it's just, it's called Growl. It's just.
Oh, yes, yes.
It's just a little portrait I threw in. I just happened to have some of the first portraits that started it all off when I had a studio up at the Williams Mill in Halton Hills. And it was when the polar bears were first declared of concern. And I was doing other artwork, and I just thought, well, that's sort of disturbing that polar bears, are a beautiful animal like that are now on the of concern list. And so I started, because half my business was portraiture, I just started to do little polar bear portraits just for the.
Wow, and look at what that started.
And then that just became eventually, it's just really.
Do you have any idea how many you've painted?
You know what? I don't have any idea. So
it's got to be quite a number, Christine.
There might be 300.
Oh my God!
Now it's of different sizes. But I'm sure at least 300. I'm sure there's that. I've never actually thought to count it.
Wow. No, I was just curious. Oh, now we have a pretty big one here, eh?
No, this is little. This is 6 by 12. This is the little first ones I did. I've only got about 3 left. That actually one of them is in Queen's Park. They actually have a gallery in the buildings there, and one of them's been there now for I guess a year and a half. It went in a show there, and now it's just a show that's carrying on until the pandemic's over.
Sure.
So this one's called Sitting Pretty. So it's just it is one of the female polar bears at the zoo. She is the inspiration behind it, and she's just a pretty bear.
Yeah.
Although I'm going to say she has the beard, so I think that might be male, but it's a pretty polar bear anyway.
Let me just go back for a second. Is it going to go back for me? Oh yeah, she does have the beard, or he has the beard.
So it might be a male bear, but anyways, it's pretty all the same.
Yeah.
And this is just another, another one. A cat. I do pet portraits. I like to paint cats. And this is so typical, like the cat stuck, my cats, who I often paint, they're indoor cats, and they have this stuck inside look, like annoyed stuck inside.
I know that look.
Yeah, they're sort of like pandemic painting. We can all relate looking out
We
the
can
window.
relate to that these days. Oh my God. Oh, there's another one we can relate
And
to.
there's another one.
Yeah.
Just looking pretty darn mad.
I
Or
love
like if you could say sort of harumph, I think that's what he'd be saying.
Oh, this is gorgeous. What a beautiful garden.
Oh, thanks. That's a really large painting. Well, a pretty large painting. It's 20 inches high, but it's 60 inches wide.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so it really is quite beautiful to see all those blues. I personally haven't tired of looking at it. And that actually was based on a Martha Vineyard scene that when I had the chance to go to, I was invited to go to Martha's Vineyard by someone, and this was actually Chappaquiddick.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and I could not get over every place were these beautiful blue hydrangeas.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
You know, we do get them in our garden stores here, but you have to add something to the soil to keep them.
Yes.
Then they go pink.
Yes. I
And
have some white ones, but yeah, I think you have to add something acidic, or if I'm not.
There is something I can't remember, but I never do it. So the blue ones I pay extra money for always end up pink. But anyways, but they're everywhere. The soil is perfect, and it's all these little historic white houses, and everywhere just rows and rows of these beautiful blue hydrangeas.
Oh, beautiful. It is beautiful. And I can see where you wouldn't get tired because it's very reflective. You know, your mind would wander to places while you're looking, you know.
This is like another good, like sort of wasn't meant to be, but a pandemic painting of just sitting alone.
Yes.
You
Contemplating.
yourself.
Yeah, meditating. Yes, for sure. And I believe we're back to the beginning. Yes, we are.
We are excellent.
Yeah, we are. Oh, that's great. Let me see.